SOS after SOS going out from the telecom industry to government seeking urgent intervention. Do you see parallels to what we're seeing today in the Indian telecom sector to what perhaps we saw in 1999 when again there was an SOS to the NDA government saying, look, we cannot pay the annual license fee, and then the decision to move to rev share?
No, look, I think, Shireen, we have to understand two things. One is that 25 years on, I think it is time for us to pause and look at creating a new policy framework that addresses many things. I think the debate and the narrative in recent days has been dominated by the so-called debt crisis in the telecom sector, but there are other fundamental issues that we have to grow up with, which is technology, which is the issue of consumer rights,
let's address the debt crisis first. I'll come to that. I'll come to consumer rights, but let's address the debt crisis. Because the fear is that is telecom now the new steel? We've seen the exposure of steel companies, the NPAs of the steel companies, and what it's done to the Indian banking sector. The worry is that could telecom, in that sense, be the new steel? Would you agree?
No, so I think, look, I think there is a classic phenomenon between 2010 and 2015 of industry across the board getting caught up in hubris and over-leveraging themselves. This is not unique to telecom. This is true for power, this is true for steel, this is true for highways, and this is true also in some cases in telecom. Now, the point is, I think the government is looking at NPAs and the debt crisis. They cannot afford to look at it and should not look at it in any unique way for telecom. This is an issue that is being addressed by the insolvency law, what the RBI is doing to companies that are indebted and are not able to service their debt. And I think the key here is to ensure that for the orderly growth of the telecom sector, if a telecom company finds itself in a situation where it has got debt that it cannot service, then the creditors must step in and apply the same insolvency principles that you would apply to steel or highways or power.
Okay.
So to ask for a sweetheart deal, which is why I kind of disagree with the approach of some of the telecom operators, to ask for a sweetheart deal in the face of an impending debt crisis is about going down a road where moral hazard and all other questions will be raised about preferential treatment to a sector when the parliament has already passed these laws of insolvency and bankruptcy.
Okay, so you're essentially saying that let the insolvency and bankruptcy code, let banks address this situation. You believe that the government should not intervene, because let's just take a look at some of the demands that they're making. You know, whether it's lowering of the license fee, it's restructuring of the deferred payment for spectrum, etc. You believe that there is no legitimate cause for the government to look at any of these demands?
Shane, the rules of the game post-insolvency have changed completely. The equity shareholders are responsible completely for the state of the financial health of the companies that they are managing. If there is a case that the company cannot service its debt, the creditors step into the role of an equity shareholder, and the equity shareholders will have to take a haircut or be replaced. That is the fundamental tenet of insolvency. That is the fundamental tenet of bankruptcy all over the world. To argue for a bailout package, in my opinion, in this day and age, 25 years after telecom was started, and we are very, very far away from the days of 1999, where there was regulatory uncertainty, there were disputes between government and telecom operators. This is now a situation where companies are arguing their bad judgments have to be bailed out by the taxpayers of the country, and that is never going to fly. It is never going to fly in Parliament, it is never going to fly with Reserve Bank of India, and it's never going to fly with the banks.
Well, that's just an excerpt of my conversation there with Rajya Sabha MP R Chandrasekhar, who's written a letter to the Prime Minister on a whole bunch of things, including putting together a RERA-like agency to look after customer rights. And you can catch that entire interview here on CNBC TV 18. It talks about the 25 years of India's telecom sector. But the big